In this week's episode, I am going to show you how we built this really beautiful epoxy table. I'm going to show you our methods and techniques we took in achieving this beaut. And you guys do want to stick around until the end of this video because we've got a really cool announcement we want to share with you. So starting off this week's episode, we are going to build a 8-seater epoxy table for one of our clients, and the specific wood species we are going with is called Matumi wood. It's only sourced from South Africa, and as all my previous videos you would know that this is one of the most popular wood species from my country, and we do want to share with you the species we are using because we always get that question. Now, moving to the mixing of the epoxy, we're going with a transparent black color epoxy. So we're just going to use the dye instead of the powders. And one tip I want to give you guys is you'll see I'm putting the epoxy in a boiling pot of water. This is just going to help us to make the epoxy more in a liquid form, meaning that the air bubbles will release much quicker. Also do want to share with you guys, before we put our bucket of epoxy in the boiling water, we would put our part A, our resin part, and our part B not mixed together in the boiling pot as well. This will only help reducing the air bubbles. Now, fast forwarding where I'm busy pouring the epoxy. Also do want to give you guys a tip: when you're pouring the epoxy, find a small little ridge on your wooden slab to pour your epoxy on. It's just going to help to reduce the bubbles. And another tip I want to give you is always make sure to cast slowly. Also do want to share with you guys, we do have an online epoxy masterclass where we're going into details on how we build all our tables. You guys do want to check it out. I am going to leave a small preview what you can expect at the end of this video. I'm also going to share down in the link of this video where you can find this masterclass. Sometimes in a small woodworking shop, it's sometimes difficult if you are alone when it comes to moving bigger slabs on your own. So like always, we do have to make a plan, and in our shop most of our workbenches is on wheels, meaning I can move my complete shop in any way I want. And this always makes it helpful sometimes when you are alone, that you can move your wooden slabs and you don't need anyone to help you. And you will see in the next shots to follow how I achieve this by myself. So loading the epoxy table on my van, as we call it in South Africa, our bakkie. We're heading to our local CNC supplier where we're going to flatten our slab, both sides, on top and at the bottom. We previously done it manually with a router sled, but we found when we are manufacturing a lot of these tables, it's just saving us so much time when we're taking it to a local CNC supplier. Fast forwarding a bit, when we got our slab back from our local CNC supplier, we have to cut our slab down to its final size. Now we're going to start off with the longer side of the slab, then we're going to mark parallel to the side we just cut, then we're going to cut the other longer side of our slab, then we're going to square off those two edges and cut the shorter edges of our table. This is going to make sure that you have a perfect square table. Fast forwarding a bit, we completed the underside. Now it was time to move to the top side of our table. And as you can see, it's heavy, but it's not that heavy that we need 10 people to turn this table. Most probably end up being 4 people when we're going to deliver this table. Moving to one of the finishing steps in our project, and that's by closing all the small imperfections in our table, like all the small cracks and holes the natural wood is got after the CNC process. Now this product I'm using here is called Crystal UV. It's a quick set epoxy. Once it gets in contact with sunlight or a UV light, it takes around about 30 seconds for the epoxy to set fully. Now we love this product and we recently moved to this product, and we ended up saving 2 to 3 days of time by closing all the small imperfections on our table. And you'll see I'm holding my hand in front of the epoxy just to make sure the tip of my squeeze bottle is not going to set, because it did happen before. That's how fast this epoxy set. Now the reason why we close all the small imperfections is it's obvious. The client is paying premium prices for his project. So we, as a epoxy table company manufacturer, we make sure that we deliver the perfect product to all our clients. Sometimes also you get where you have these small little bubbles, and once you apply epoxy over it, the epoxy doesn't go in. And we found that closing smaller micro bubbles in your epoxy is to actually make the hole slightly bigger, and you'll see the epoxy will go in much quicker and much easier. Fast forwarding a bit, we sanded our table down to 180 grit. Then we moved on by giving our table a small 45-degree chamfer right around. Now we love this finish on all our tables. We love keeping the thickness of the table just by giving our table a small 45-degree chamfer on both sides of our table. This will give you a much smoother look, and you will keep the thickness of your tables. And fast forwarding a bit again, we sanded our table down to around about 220 grit to 300 grit, and the epoxy section of our table we sanded down all the way to 1500 grit, and then we're moving on to the polishing stage. Now the polishing stages, we are using the Festool system, and as you can see we got 3 different colors of polish compound. Now using the Festool system, we're starting off with the orange polish compound and the orange pad. Then we're moving on to the second stage, which is the blue compound, and the last finishing stage, which is the white polish compound. Now you'll see I will continue polishing until the polish almost disappears, and then you will start to see the shiny of the epoxy starting to come through. Now if you overlap with your polish sponge on the wood, don't worry too much. The nice thing about using Odie's oil, that's the finish we're going to use for this table, it allows for you to sand the wood to higher grits. Now this specific table we sanded down to 320 grit, and we will come back and sand as close as possible to the epoxy line, just to make sure you remove the polish you just made on the wooden section of your table. After doing all of this work, and we ended up wiping the table down, getting it ready for the finishing stages, which is the oiling stages of our project. We came to this weird little section of the table where I'm not sure exactly what happened, but as soon as we're done with the finishing stages of our polish, it looked like there was this small little screw head sticking around in our epoxy. Now, it's not like there was a screw inside our epoxy, and once we sanded the table down, this mark wasn't there. It's like a head of a screw that's sticking out. And we ended up sanding our table down, starting from 800 grit again, all the way up to 1500 grit, just to remove these marks. Now, I don't know why this happened. If you guys can give me any advice, we're building these tables for a couple of years now, and it's the first time this happened. I don't know if it's got something to do with cold and heat. I mean, it's not like we left the screw there, but I've got absolutely no idea why this happened. So if you got any idea, if you got a clue why this happened, leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. And moving to the final stage of our project, and that's by giving it our Odis oil. Now, we absolutely love using Odis oil for basically all our rivet tables, and we will start with the Odis oil Super Duper. Now, the Super Duper range is a little bit more of a liquid to the original Odis oil. And you'll see me using a orbital sander on a low RPM. Now, the reason why we love using this is the vibration of the machine basically massages the oil into the wood. Now, we would start with the Odis oil. We would apply the Odis oil to the wooden section of our table. We would wait around about 45 minutes to 1 hour. Then we will come and buff off the Odis oil. We would leave our table for 24 hours. Then we will come and apply the original Odis oil on top of our table. We will wait around about 45 minutes to 1 hour. Then we will come and buff off the original Odis oil. We will wait for around about another 24 hours to 2 days, and then we will buff our table off again. Because you will see, once you use Odis oil, it's like when you come back the next day, the wood is breathing. You will see there's like small little sweat drops of the Odis oil, because the wood will only take the amount of oil it needs, and the excess oil it would push out. That's what we found by using Odis oil. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any future content we're posting. Like this video, it's honestly just helping us grow and helping us to produce future content. Enjoy the final video, and remember to stick around until the end of this video for the online epoxy masterclass we're presenting. Thanks guys, I'll see you next week with another super cool video. Cheers. Welcome to this online epoxy masterclass. Moisture content. You hit right into the core wood species to remove the bark with an aggressive steel wire brush. Table design, slab preparation, building process, epoxy mold. Release agent wax, calculate epoxy. 7, 8, so we got 16 points. Mixing epoxy, color, consistency. Whether to seal your live edges or not. Pouring epoxy. Sanding between layers, sanding grooves inside your epoxy. Dealing with bubbles. Maximum depth, curing time. Removing the table from your mold. Our local CNC supplier.
Start sanding, cutting your table to size and edging. Filling the cracks and holes. Smoky finish, high gloss see-through finish. Wood surface finishing. Tabletop supports to drill into our wooden section. Our online epoxy masterclass is finally here. It's 4 hours of masterclass where I'm going into detail on how we build all our epoxy tables, where I'm going to teach you from start to finish how to build a epoxy table successfully. I'm going to show you all our methods and techniques we take in our everyday business building epoxy tables successfully. Down in the description of this video, you're going to find the details on how to purchase this masterclass. You don't want to miss this one.